Hey y'all, it's me, Boston, Massachusetts, and welcome back to Hot or Hot. And today we've got two topics to discuss. The first of which is one that I truly speak on with a heavy heart, and that is about the Vivienne's untimely passing. So in tribute to the Vivienne's legacy and impact on the world of drag, we'll be reading some nice posts made by her closest friends and prominent members of the Drag Race community. And then we will be jumping into this week's regularly planned Hot or Rot coverage of Canada's Drag Race Season 5, Episode 7. Sadly, the world learned of the Vivienne's passing on January 5th, 2025, when Simon Jones, the Vivienne's friend and manager, released a statement made by the Vivienne's family to their X profile. That statement read, "It is with immense sadness that we let you know our beloved James Lee Williams, the Vivienne, has passed this weekend. James was an incredibly loved, warm-hearted, and amazing person. Their family are heartbroken at the loss of their son, brother, and uncle. They are so proud of the wonderful things James achieved in their life and career. We will not be releasing any further details. We please ask that James' family are given the time and the privacy they now need to process and grieve." And Simon has released his own statements as well as written an entire tribute article to the Vivienne, which you can read the entirety of on metro.co.uk, where Simon ends his tribute by saying, "Viv leaves a legacy as one of the greatest drag and entertainment stars the UK has ever seen. Their presence will be felt forever." And in other news reporting around her death, we have seen articles pop up on websites like lbc.co.uk, where they report the police wrote there were no suspicious circumstances surrounding this death. And throughout this week, there's been an absolute outpour of love and support for the Vivienne across every single social media platform. In a post to Instagram, Michelle Visage wrote, "Heartbreaking. I don't know how to say how I feel. My darling the Vivienne, we go back to when I started coming over here to the UK. You're always there, always laughing, always giving, always on point. Your laughter, your wit, your talent, your drag. I loved all of it, but I loved your friendship most of all. Rest in peace, my angel, fly high." And on Rupaul's official Instagram account, we see a post tribute to the Vivienne as well, where she wrote, "With a broken heart, I joined the entire Drag Race universe in mourning the loss of the Vivienne, an incredibly talented queen and a lovely human being." And Baga, one of her closest friends and fellow UK drag superstars, had a lot to say about their very beautiful and close relationship and ended their tribute post with these words, "You were always there for me when I needed you. My beautiful boy, my James, our Viv. You taught me the true meaning of sisterhood, but more importantly, you taught me how to do a cut crease. I'm gonna bloody miss you, my friend. Get the drinks in for me, love. I love you." The Vivienne's death has also galvanized some members of our community to seek justice for the treatment of the members in our community in online spaces, such as Crystal, who's wrote an opinion piece that's been published in metro.co.uk, where she talks about how tragic it is that the Vivienne's final days were beleaguered with hate and vitriol in comment sections regarding her latest appearance in Blankety Blank, essentially the UK's actual Snatch Game show. In that article, Crystal wrote, "This was a performer at the top of her game, with work covering theater, TV, comedy, and music. But after they featured on a special Boxing Day episode of Blankety Blank, the usual suspects on social media complained that a drag queen was on their screens. This is despite the show being hosted by Lily Savage for years," where she went on to say, "I want to be perfectly clear that I'm drawing absolutely no connections between her death and this bullying. Her family have asked for privacy and I am not engaging in speculation. However, it makes me incredibly sad to know that she was on the receiving end of those messages immediately before her death, and I need to address it." Where she ends the article talking about being inspired to purposefully take up space as a queer person and discusses the importance of queer representation in media like cable TV shows. And so I'll end this section of the video by saying, firstly, rest in peace to the Vivienne, an absolute legend. And also by reminding you to take care of yourself, and if you have the capacity, to take care of the other humans around you as well. And now we head up north to cover Canada's Drag Race Season 5, Episode 7, where our queens were challenged to design and create a custom garment that represented their signature style to be modeled by Brooke Lyn Hytes on the runway. And they were also asked to serve their own looks on the runway. Category was Wardrobe Malfunction. So we'll be going queen by queen to break all that down, as well as discussing the very heated and dramatic moment between Makayla Couture and Xana. First up, there's nothing small about her. It's Minhi Wang, who hits the runway in her Wardrobe Malfunction outfit, wearing a pink polka dotted baby doll gown with a cute little bow on her head. And my first thought when I saw this dress was like, oh my god, this dress is really ugly. But it's actually so ugly that it circles back around into being funny and camp. And this look also becomes really fun when you see what the Wardrobe Malfunction actually is. When she hits the end of the runway, she leans over and then like the dress gets stuck, flipping completely upside down and revealing some rhinestone negligee. Oops. And by the end of the runway, I was smiling and having so much fun with this look and was really happy for Minhi Wang's amazing Wardrobe Malfunction. This was totally hot. And Minhi enters this design challenge with, you'll remember, the weight of carrying the last design challenge win on her shoulders. And this look she's created for Brooke to model, she says, is an evil, hellish devil defending against the dark arts of gay drag wizardry. Look. And what Minhi, I think, did most successfully, more so than any other queen on the runway tonight, was really show off the model with her garment. Because Brooke's legs look absolutely phenomenal in this dress. That said, I don't necessarily see Minhi Wang in this outfit. But then again, I'm not exactly sure what like a signature Minhi Wang thing is at this point, because she's kind of served a lot of different styles of looks and shown a lot of different versatility. I also think there were some design choices with this dress that I personally wouldn't have made. Some of that giant stoning around the sleeves and the way it clusters around the torso is not as chic as it could be if those stones were much smaller. Overall though, the outfit's good and Brooke looks great in it, so I'm gonna give it a hot. And next up is the Virgo queen, who in her Wardrobe Malfunction runway is actually giving me one of the coolest and chicest dresses of all the queens in this category. I immediately thought of Lulu from Final Fantasy X when I saw this, and I love the way that this seemingly references that with the ribbon kind of falling out of the back, being similar to like Lulu's leather belts in her dress. The issue with this look is that the Wardrobe Malfunction is not really giving malfunction. That ribbon, the way she's wearing it and presenting it, there's no like, oops, look what accidentally happened and how amazing this gag is. It's just like, my dress is kind of already undone and I'm like serving sexy model and like, here I am. So I do think Virgo looks gorgeous in this and the dress is flaming hot, but I did deduct a flame because it didn't really meet the brief for me. And over in the design challenge, she reveals she's a little nervous for this challenge because she's actually never created a dress before, and her original idea for this gown is to highlight and pay homage to the trans community with a pink and blue flag inspired look. But the final execution of this look is just not great. All of the gathering and draping of the different fabrics is just reading as heavy and cumbersome, and where there should be clean lines and elements like that torso piece, it just looks a little lumpy or misshapen. And the first thing I noticed and hated on this look were actually the way the sleeves connect to the bicep and the wrist, and how it kind of looks like Brooke is carrying like two giant full diapers down the runway with her arms. Diaper arms. We've seen everything on Drag Race now. And so I'm gonna give it a hot. And next up, it's Helena Poison, who in her Wardrobe Malfunction runway gives us a little prom queen dream turned into Miss Teen Filth nightmare. She comes out on the runway in this pink satin decoy dress that pretty quickly gets shredded when, oops, she accidentally steps on it to reveal that she's got on a stunning set of rhinestones negligee. Oops. And I really like how what she revealed to was very obviously that punky, edgy, rocker girl Helena Poison that we have come to know and love. And this honestly felt like a really solid and complete look for the category, but y'all wanted a twist, eh? She hits the end of the runway and takes off the top part of her wig to literally reveal her scalped head. And obviously this could reference a lot of different horror movies, but the one I thought of was Evil Dead Rising and that insane opening scene. If you know, you know. And I'm proud to report I'm giving this look a And over in the design challenge, she has created a garment that is very much giving those 80 rocker girl vibes that Helena loves to tap into, but in a much more revealing way than I think Helena would design for herself. As you'll remember, the brief was that Brooke wanted to show all of her legs or no legs at all. And Helena did a great job, I think, matching what the client wanted with her own personal style. Because y'all know if you didn't have the queens next to these gowns and you saw this one in the lineup, you know that it's Helena Poison's. And at first I wasn't a huge fan of this when I was watching this in my reaction with my patrons, but I've honestly done a complete 180 on it after rewatching these runways a few times. And I just gotta really commend her on creating something that was glamorous, in tune with her own drag style, and looked great on Brooke. This look is totally hot. And flying over to the runway next is Xana, who says for her runway concept, she is tapping into some jet set eleganza air hostess realness, but everything's gone wrong. And when she first came out, I kind of enjoyed the silhouette and fantasy she was giving with those like very chicly styled neutral colors. But then as the look got closer to the camera and they started zooming in on some of the details, I was like, what is that bra doing? What are those little ice cream cones flipped upside down and put on this outfit? What is that? And in the presentation of her Wardrobe Malfunction, she tried to mesh in with the idea of being a burlesque diva, which I can see how her brain jumped on that train of thought there, but it ultimately wasn't super successful and came off kind of awkward because she's going down the runway in a very deconstructed look and then just is like sometimes accidentally and sometimes purposefully taking sleeves off or revealing that the back is slid. But again, I thought the whole idea of this brief was supposed to be a wardrobe malfunction and not an intentionally planned burlesque show. But aside from how she presented it and interpreted this brief, I also just really, like Serene Fox, cannot get past those ice cream comb accessories on her chest. That's crazy, and for that reason, I'm gonna give this look a And unfortunately for Ms. Xana, things do not get any better for her in the design challenge. Her idea for the garment she's creating is that she wants to showcase Brooke as the mother pearl and queen of the winter storm in this regal blue fabric with pearlescent accents, which as a concept sounds great, but in execution looks really, really bad. The final garment is giving us like old lady from the Titanic dropped it in the ocean and then got trapped at sea in a fisherman's net. Everything about this gown just looks cumbersome. There's like an awkward front train Brooke keeps tripping on, which is no fault of Brooke's. And then those really strange like eyeball pieces on the blue fabric. And then the way that there is just absolutely no tie-in between the different types of fabric and accessories used on this to any of the other types of fabrics or accessories is just confusing and jarring and disjointed. So I'm gonna give it a and except the A is at the end, it's Perla. And over on the runway, Perla is giving us the Perla of yesteryears, before she found her sobriety and spent a little too much time with the wine bottle and is walking around in a drunken stupor. And this Perla look is actually really cute, I think, considered in a vacuum. Absolutely love this party girl white gown. And now she's done these really beautiful maroon rhinestone splotches to look like wine that's been spilled all down her dress. Like she absolutely is giving us a show with the presentation of this girl. Everyone knows her, everyone has seen her at the parties, and everyone has seen her walking home at 6 a.m. But what confused me with this look was like, what is the wardrobe malfunction? Because nothing about this garment is giving malfunction. It's giving user error. It's giving she spilled the wine. The dress didn't have any issue at all. She did that. She went spill, spill, spill. And there was nothing about meeting this brief related to this look at all. As a look, yeah, I would give this a hot. But for this brief, it just doesn't make any sense. So I'm gonna give it a soft rot. Ironically though, Perla does find her wardrobe malfunction this episode, but not in the dress she'd hoped to. For Brooke, she has created this soft blue and white dress that is so chic and gorgeous. It is giving tea party with those fancy little sandwiches vibes. And I love the way it snatches Brooke's waist so fiercely, and it's truly one of the looks Brooke looks best in tonight. But the gag of the season, because y'all wanted a twist, eh, is that when Brooke turns around, we see that one of the stitches in the gathering of fabric in the back has like fallen out, and result, Brooke's panty is hanging out, which is really unfortunate for Perla, because I will not back down on my opinion that this was going to be the best look of the night had this not had happened. But it did. And even though it did, I'm still gonna give this look a. And lastly tonight, we have Makayla Couture, who for her wardrobe malfunction look is giving us a bright yellow 60s inspired dress with matching fluorescent yellow hair and a beautiful beehive with butterflies that we see cleverly placed in the hair and the dress, complete with a butterfly net prop. And she hits the end of the runway and then turns around to reveal that her skirt has been ripped, which would be quite literally a wardrobe malfunction, but does nothing to subvert that idea or reveal that that malfunction actually was a sickening fashion moment. She just here happens to have her skirt rip and then said whoops and then left the stage. So this is another situation where I don't really know what to do with this look, but just say like it's hot on its own, but for the category a rot. But it's really crazy thinking about how many queens missed the mark on this brief, because really I would say Helena Poison and Minhi Wang were the only two to actually capture what was being asked of them here. And so I honestly kind of suspect that there was something weird going on with how they communicated this brief to the queens, because the real tea, Makayla tells us later during critiquing session that this dress was supposed to be an homage to the Asia O'Hara butterfly incident, and goes on to say that because there was an issue with how she planned to execute on that look, she instead decided to just rip her skirt and pass that off as the wardrobe malfunction. As for her design challenge look, she has created us a red, lacy, full-length ball gown eleganza glamazon gown for your nerves, which I think really beautifully shows off this top part of Brooke's arms. And I love the way she's done the sleeves, how the dress fits, and how she didn't try to do too much while still making a beautiful gown for Brooke Lyn. The thing that was questionable to me about this look though were the pearl accessories and how she's draped them across the chest and the waist. I just don't know that I love those details there, and I kind of feel like the look would have been a little more chic without them. But it's a decent look, and so I'm gonna give it a. Which brings us to the huge fight that occurred this episode between Makayla Couture and Xana. So the queens received their critiques and head back to Untucked, where they're trying to figure out who placed where based on what the judges told them. And Makayla is in this Untucked trying to have a positive moment of reflection on her performance in this episode, when Xana jumps in to assert that Makayla's performance this episode was actually not as she may be thinking it was. She talks about how Makayla's runway not necessarily being on brief with how the malfunction occurred, and then also starts talking about how apparently Brooke was tripping on the dress Makayla created as well as the dress Xana created, which I will say, at least in the footage that I watched, I didn't see, which isn't to say that it did or didn't happen, because there is a ton of footage that we as viewers never see of these episodes. I think it's obvious though, Xana here was just projecting because she knew she was on the chopping block, but Makayla took it very personally. After hearing what Xana has to say, Makayla storms out of the Untucked lounge yelling F this, F that, and then Makayla comes back to tell Xana that she's disgusting and small and that Xana's lost a friend on that day. And obviously this seemed like a pretty big reaction reaction to what Xana was saying, but let's also remember there's some context here of Makayla continually getting these little snide comments from queens in this cast, like for example, Xana, and then also Gahd the other week when she implied Makayla should have been in the bottom when she clearly was in the top. And so while her reaction was big, I do want to say I think it's important sometimes to stand your ground and let people know that it's not okay to underestimate you. The sad thing though is that these two don't really seem to get a resolution in this episode, but maybe they'll work it out in the remix. And concerning the actual placements of the queens, the win this week goes to Minhi Wang, which is a win I feel a little conflicted about, but can understand the perspective on. Because like on one hand, I think her wardrobe malfunction look was the best execution of this brief tonight, and she definitely had one of the better design challenge looks. And if we were weighing these two categories equally, yeah, I would give her the win. However, usually in design challenges where there also are runways, it really is just the design challenges that are considered for placements, or their consideration would at least be weighed heavier. And with that in mind, I would actually say Helena Poison deserves the win, because I think the look she created for Brooke was the best considering what they asked him to do. However, I'm also conflicted on that because if Perla hadn't had the wardrobe malfunction and the look she created for Brooke, then I would say she deserves the win. And the bottom two queens tonight are really no surprise considering the gowns they created. The Virgo queen and Xana are gonna lip sync to Taking Chances by Celine Dion, which is honestly a tough place for both queens to be in, because Xana's coming off the back of a win, which came off the back of a bottom placement, and the Virgo queen is now lip syncing for the second week in a row after doing really well in the beginning part of this competition. And I'll say both of these queens actually did a really great job in this lip sync and was probably each of their best performances in lip syncs this season so far, or at least one of. And I do think the Virgo queen deserved this win based off of a little bit more of a dynamic performance she gave here, though Xana was not far behind. And so we do say goodbye to Xana as she's asked to sashay away this week, which I do feel a little conflicted about because there was so much about Xana that I liked, including how she stood up for the queer community and her sisters, but it did also feel like she was often stirring the pot in these untucked moments, or chiming in when it didn't necessarily feel like it was the best time for her to chime in. But let me know what y'all are thinking about these placements and elimination down in the comments below. As my final thoughts on this episode, again, I'm really enjoying Canada's Drag Race, and I love how they continue to take chances and do new things with their franchise. Could y'all imagine an episode of US Drag Race where Rupaul is modeling dresses created by the cast? I don't think she would ever do that. And we're at an interesting point in this season because it doesn't really feel like we're entering a finale with one or two big standouts, and instead there are several queens who have done really well in different aspects of this competition. And so I think these next few episodes will be really important in demonstrating who truly deserves this crown. And as for hottest hots this episode, in the wardrobe malfunction runway, I'm gonna give it to Minhi Wang. And in the design challenge look created for Brooke, I'm gonna give it to Helena Poison. I also asked my patrons to vote on their hottest haunts, and this week they've chosen Minhi Wang in the main runway and Minhi Wang in the design challenge. And lastly, I want to say thanks so much to you for watching this video, and to remind you that my channel would not be possible without the support of my generous patrons on patreon.com/BussyQueen. Don't forget, I post reaction videos to every episode of Drag Race I review, so if you're looking for that additional extra super silly, super goofy content, then you can find it over there. And I've included a link to get to it in the description of this video. And I also want to give a special shout out to Ashton, Felicia, Laura, Matthew Burns, and Will and Tana, who are all supporting me at the Bussy Queen Collections here at patreon.com/BussyQueen. See y'all later. Love ya. Bye.